Hello everyone, this is Vignesh from Phoenix Financial Training, here to share a few tips relevant to the ACCA Advanced Performance Management exam that you may be taking in December 2019. The exam is composed of 3 questions, 150 marker and 225 markers. The structure of the exam has remained largely static except for a recent change from September 2019 when the layout of question 1 was changed, whereby the requirements are not fully laid out at the end of the question, but instead hidden within the scenario. This would mean that you need to pick up the heading or a phrase given in the requirement and go back to the scenario and pick up the very specific requirement. It is important you get used to this style of questioning. And the best source to look for is the ACCA Specimen Paper that has been released from September 2019. So please make sure you look up the question, get used to the way the question style is written so you find it fairly easy going into the exam. In terms of areas tested, the exam has always contained questions pertaining to evaluation of performance reports or evaluation of key performance indicators, which needs to be done in the context of the goals, the mission, the objectives of the company. You may also be asked questions relating to new information systems being implemented or new techniques such as Kaizen costing, TQM, any lean systems methodology that's being implemented in an organization, wherein you're asked to comment on the impact of such systems on organizational performance. Questions may ask you to structure your answers within certain models, but please remember that often the knowledge element in the exam is only about a maximum of 20%. So if you are asked to structure a question under, say, Porter's 5 forces or PEST, there are very few marks available for discussing the model. Most of the marks are for using those headings and trying to structure your arguments and points under those headings. And that's the purpose of the model. The model has, does not give you sufficient marks just for the knowledge, but instead for the application. Please also be well prepared on the areas such as business process, re-engineering, where you could be asked small numerical questions along with a discussion of impact of BPR on the company. You should also be prepared to discuss the different forms of benchmarking and the benefits and drawbacks of these various methods, as well as be able to perform value for money analysis, which is the 3 E's. This appears in the context of not-for-profit organizations. Corporate failure is another key area which is very often tested in the exam. You need to be aware of both the quantitative and qualitative methods of assessing corporate failure. What are their merits, their demerits, and how the assessment process works. You would also need to be familiar with the performance assessment models such as balance scorecard, building block model, performance pyramid. It's not just about knowing how the models can be used to derive KPIs. You've got to get into the depth of the models and be able to comment on the challenges in implementations, as well as how on certain models like building block, we can evaluate the reward systems, the target setting systems using certain criteria, a checklist that's given on how rewards and targets need to be designed. Finally, I would just sort of say it is important that you are aware of all the key topics or all the major topic headings. You at least need to be aware of what they are. When you go into an exam like APM, question spotting does not work. And it is evident from the way the examiner has repeated subject areas in consecutive sittings that the examiner does not appreciate anybody deciding to skip a few topics, because that might just come up again or that might just come up out of the blue. But the important thing to remember is that it's not the knowledge that gets marked, it's the application. So you don't need to get into the depth of the knowledge elements on these models. As long as you know what these topics are, you should be able to apply the question information in the context of the question and be able to write up your answers. Just as an example, if you know the Porter's 5 forces and how the whole model works, you can effectively pull out information from the scenario and use that information to comment on the position, competitive position of the company. So make sure that you spend all your time on question practice. You should know the models, but very, very briefly. You should be spending all your time on timed question practice, and that will help you greatly when you go into the exam. So I hope your exam goes really, really well. Wish you all the very best.